Hey basketball coaches, players, and fans, today I'm going to be talking to you about Pascal Siakam and what has changed from him during the regular season to now in the playoffs in the second round struggling against Boston. I'm going to be really comparing a couple of different aspects of his game. I'm going to be comparing his transition game, his isolation game, post-up, spot-up shooting, pick and roll, as well as just his overall game and what Boston is really trying to do to him to shut him down. So from there, we're going to start in his transition game. This is something that he has always had and really put him in the spotlight on the Toronto Raptors, because when in his rookie year he had a ton of touchdown passes that led to open layups and dunks on the other end of the court. Now, during the regular season, Pascal Siakam, his offense consisted about 21.7% of his offense, his total offense, was from the transition game. So that is when a guard or Gasol or Ibaka were to get a rebound outlet to a player like Van Fleet, or to Kyle Lowry, who bombed the ball down to Pascal Siakam, who leaked out and got behind the defense after the other team took their shot. Now, that was one way. Another way was sometimes Gasol would get that defensive rebound and bomb it down himself, and the same as Kyle Lowry, he would do that as well. In the playoffs against Boston, he is now only doing that 14.8% of the time, and usually he has a smaller, quicker defender on him who is able to then cut off his ability to get to that net and forces him back out to the perimeter. Next is his isolation game. This is when he usually steps out towards the perimeter. He gets that, or receives that pass, or he already has that ball, and he's out on that perimeter, and he drives on his defender. Well, he usually does this against a few select types of players. Number one, he can do that against most forwards in the NBA because they are usually slower than him. He has some really quick feet, especially for his size. Sometimes other teams will stick a taller defender on him who is much slower than him, and because of that, he's able to drive towards the basket. And in the regular season, he has done that 14.2% of the time, and that has actually raised to 18.1%, so he's doing that 4% more against the Boston Celtics. The reason for this is because he's taller and he is being guarded primarily against shorter, faster players. So as a taller player, you're conditioned to drive to the rim, especially when there's a mismatch between you and your defender. If you have the so-called upper hand, you want to drive on that defender because you want to be able to get past him. However, that's what he's doing, but because the defender is shorter, that's why he's driving on them. But they're shorter, they're also much quicker, which is now allowing them to slide in front of his drive. He needs to then do a spin move, and from there, they usually, by that time, he's in the key, and Boston has been double teaming most players as soon as they get into the key. Whether they're playing man-to-man defense or a zone, usually in a zone that's going to happen anyway, so I'll take that back. But if they're playing man-to-man, they will still leave their other player. Whoever is closest will leave their man and then double team Siakam in the paint. That's one of the reasons why his ability to score has been really negated, because he's taking the advantage, which isn't really truly an advantage. Next is his post-up game. This is really only 12% of his total offense throughout the season. And in previous seasons as well, it's a really small part of his offense. Even though he is 6'9", 6'10" in that range, his post-up game is not there. He was never a big banging player who would bang players in the post to score in the low post. His post offense consists of taking 1 or 2 hard dribbles and then doing a quick spin move to get to that rim. However, with him now having a quicker player on him, he is unable to do that 1 to 2 hard pound dribble and spin towards the rim. He is now relegated to taking 1 or 2 hard dribbles, turning and taking a fadeaway, which he hasn't really practiced in the past and is not really a massive part of his skill. That is something that he needs to develop, however. And in the playoffs against Boston, because of that height advantage, they're sticking him into the low post, and he's going into the low post. And instead of it being only 12% of the time, it's 22% of the time. That's a massive 10% more in the low post, and because he's not used to that, and that's not part of his game, that is another reason why he is disappearing on the score sheet in these games. Next is spot-up shooting. Because of his now ability to wanting to get into that low post, or the coach or whoever's telling him to get down there, he is now shying away, or has been shying away from the post game. And even though it's still a massive part of his offense today because of what the Boston Celtics are doing, he now is not having any luck close to the rim, so he has to do spot-up shots. And now this is normally only 14% of his total offense throughout the regular season. That is now extended to now 17% in these playoffs because of his confidence in the low post. He's not scoring down there. He needs to pull it back and take some shots from the perimeter. Maybe when he's open, because he can't drive as much either because he's got a faster defender on him. And so that extra 3% of the time is now being translated into spot-up shots, which is part of his game from the corners, usually, but not usually from the point or the wings, usually from the corners. And because of this, that's why he's missing a lot of shots. Now, he is, like we just seen the other day, he had 2 out of 13 made threes. This is the reason why. His confidence is so low because they've stuck a faster defender on him and he is not used to it. Now, another thing is the pick and roll. Now, he is not usually the player who's setting the screens. Usually he is the player who is the one who is dribbling the ball, having another player or come up and screen for him. Usually it's a bigger player like Ibaka or Gasol to get that switch so he can have that extra slower defender on him and he'll drive on them. However, most of the Boston Celtics, their players are extremely quick laterally. And because of that, they're able to keep up whether they're a center or not, like Thies. He is a very good lateral defender, and he's able to keep up with players like Siakam, unlike most forwards and centers throughout the entire NBA. And because of this, it's almost like if Boston planned and knew that they were playing against Toronto and they got a lot of lateral quickness, and his pick and roll as a ball handler has gone from almost 18% down to 8%. That's a massive swing. Now, we could blame this on Nick Nurse because, of course, he's not running the same plays for Pascal Siakam that has worked in the past. We could still blame Nick Nurse for not using his bench as much as he did in the regular season, which is what allowed us to get over 50 wins. We could blame a lot of this on Nick Nurse. However, I'm not. He won Coach of the Year, and there is a curse when it comes to Coach of the Year. Look it up. Many Coach of the Years in the past have been fired within 2 years. So, keep that in mind. This is a cursed season because of the Coach of the Year award, and the Boston Celtics are doing an absolutely fantastic job on really negating Pascal Siakam's ability to get to the rim, and also really leaving Gasol and Ibaka open for much of their shots because they don't want them to drive towards the rim or get that ball around the rim. That's why Gasol has been passing up on a lot of threes, which is surprising to me because to me he's a pretty good three-point shooter normally. And Ibaka is not passing up the 3, and the other day he just got 4 for 4. So this season is going to be, or this playoff is going to be very interesting. At the time of recording this video, the Raptors are playing their Game 6 tonight. If they win, they're going on to Game 7. Hopefully they win there. I'm a Raptors fan. If you're a Boston fan, I'm sorry, but I hope that your team loses badly. But that's probably not going to happen because of the way they are defending Pascal Siakam. I hope that you've enjoyed today's video. If you have, hit that like button and subscribe. I'll see you guys again next time.